Good morning, everyone. We're going to get started. We are recording. My name is Charisse. I am an instructor and research specialist at the Central Branch, and we are very happy at the Howard County Library System to welcome you to Walktober, aging actively and moving your way to better health. This is the second in our series of Walktober webinars. Real-time captions are available for this class. Please click the CC button on your Zoom window to toggle them on or off. These captions are automatically generated by Zoom and may contain some errors. As I mentioned, this class is being recorded. We do welcome your feedback at the conclusion of the class, and I will be posting a link to our Howard County Library System survey, as well as the specific Walktober webinar survey. You will receive emails after this class following up with the links to the surveys and the helpful information in the class. We also will be posting the class to our Howard County Library System on-demand channel. And again, we will email all of you with that information. Okay. As you may have seen in the chat, you are all muted. And at the end of the session, you will be able to ask questions. So please use the chat icon to submit any questions that you may have. Walktober has its own website, howardcountymaryland.gov/Walktober21. And we will be posting links to all of these helpful websites in the chat. October is the perfect month to be outside, but it's important for older adults to be aware of how to move safely to prevent minor injuries. We really thank the Howard County Health Department in partnership with the Howard County Office on Aging and Independence for presenting this webinar, where we'll learn the benefits of walking and movement, medical assistive devices, and pedestrian safety tips. We'll start with the opening remarks, where each of our speakers will introduce themselves. Then we'll get into benefits of walking and movement. We will then address pedestrian safety and defensive walking, followed by the Q&A, so please do use your chat. Okay, I am going to turn this over to Mallory, who is our first presenter and will introduce herself first.
Thank you so much. My name is Mallory Burgess. I'm the exercise specialist within Howard County's Office on Aging and Independence. I have a decade of experience in the fitness industry, and I've been with the office for 3 years this week, actually. I've worked with all types of individuals over the lifespan with a number of goals, from building strength to increasing endurance, rehabilitation, and starting their own fitness journeys. I have a degree in kinesiology, and I'm also certified through the American College of Sports Medicine. And before I pass it over to Carly, a fun fact about me is today is my birthday.
No way.
Yeah.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Happy birthday, Mallory. Okay, so I am the second presenter after Mallory. I will be speaking with you. And so to introduce myself this morning, my name is Carly Schilling. I'm an occupational therapist and a certified aging in place specialist. I've been working with the Howard County Office on Aging and Independence for approximately 10 years as the program manager for the Community Living Program. So within that program, I provide consultations to promote home safety and independence for older adults who wish to remain living in the community. So I am happy to be here with you today. My birthday's not till next month.
Okay, I'll kick it over to you, Mallory.
Let's jump right into it. So we are going to be talking about all things walking and exercise here at the top. Can we go to the next slide, please? Perfect. So I'm going to go into these a little deeper on each slide. So I'm going to just go through this one really quickly. We're going to talk about how walking regularly lowers blood sugar, how it improves heart health. Actually, exercise is one of the best ways to improve your heart health. It's a natural boost of mental health and helping to regulate that, as well as pain management. And it's a good social opportunity too. So let's go into blood pressure and heart health specifically, because exercise really is one of the best ways to help manage those systems. So if we follow my little cycle here, if we are talking about aerobic exercise like walking, it's a positive heart stress. And we hear about stress all the time and how stress is a bad thing, but it can be a good thing too. And exercise is one of those positive heart stresses. Oh, there we go. So what that means is the heart is going to work harder than it normally does at rest, right? You're walking, you're keeping your heart rate sustained for a little bit of period of time, so your heart is working a little bit harder. So when this happens, what that does is it teaches your heart to work less at rest. It helps with the efficiency of the heart itself. So what that goes on to do when you are consistent with your exercise is you will see a decrease in that blood pressure, making sure that the heart is working as efficient as it possibly can, because your heart is a muscle. Aerobic exercise, you can think of it as like your heart lifting weights. So if we look at this little chart over here, what this is actually displaying is two groups. We have our white box group who did not exercise and our black box group who did exercise. This is specifically representing our radial and femoral pressure on the veins. And after several weeks of exercise, 3 days a week for 30 minutes, you can see that our black group that was put through regular aerobic exercise has seen significant decrease on that pressure in the veins in the body. So it's like medication is fantastic and I am never anti that, but exercise is a really good way to regulate some of those things too. So let's move on to our next slide. And we can bring up all of the text on this one too. So we're going to talk about target and max heart rate. So this is some fun little math you can do with yourself if you'd like. It's pretty easy, I promise. So we have our max heart rate here. So you take 220 and subtract your age from that number. This gives you your max heart rate, which you don't actually want to try to achieve. There's no reason for you to do this outside of like a laboratory setting. But what that figure then goes into tell you is what your target heart rate would be. So if you take your max heart rate, you can see I've done an example on myself down here. You take 220 and subtract your age. So 34 gives me 186. I take that 186 and I multiply it by 0.65 to 0.85 to give me 65 to 85% of that figure. So my range would be 121 to 158 beats per minute. So that's anybody in their mid 30s is going to be what this range looks like. So what is that range? This is a moderate to intense level of activity on the heart. This is about where you want to live when you're doing aerobic activity to see a lot of the benefits that I'm talking about. Moderate level feels like you can sustain a conversation with somebody. You can't sing, but you can certainly talk and respond. Intense levels of activity feel like you can't answer questions, you can't really talk, you're just too focused on what the activity is, to give you an idea of what your body would feel like in those moments. Can we go to the next slide? Another cool figure for you to test on yourself is actually your recovery heart rate. And this is something you can do on your own. You don't need to be in a lab to do it. And what this figure is tied to very significantly is longer lives and better quality of living. Because what this is showing you is how well your heart handles a stress. So the way to take this, and if you have a device like a Fitbit, or something that measures your heart rate like an Apple Watch, you can use that. If you're on a piece of stationary equipment that has those little silver handles to hold on to, you could do it that way, or you could do it the good old fashioned way and take it manually. To find that, you'll do it right under this fatty pad right here. You'll find about here on pretty much everybody if you use your two fingers, pointer and middle, and you feel around here, give it a second, you should feel your heart rate. All of those would give you sufficient figures. So to do this, you'll do your exercise, whatever that exercise is, doesn't matter, walking, running, bike, do that, and then take your heart rate as soon as your exercise is over. Measure what it is, right? Count your heart rate for about a minute, or you can count it for 20 seconds and multiply by 3. Hold that number. So let's say I just went for a walk and my heart rate is sitting at 120. Wait a minute, take your heart rate again. Let's say I took it again and now it's at 95. So my heart rate has decreased 25 beats per minute in just a minute's time. If I look at this chart here that says that my heart rate recovery is considered good, it means that my heart knows how to increase well and decrease when it's not at an intense level of activity anymore. My heart is working appropriately. If you do this on yourself and you find yourself in some of these lower categories, it's not a cause for freaking out necessarily, but it does show you a picture of your heart health, and that maybe we need to add a little more aerobic activity into your exercise routine, whether that's going for longer walks or increasing the type of walk, like you find something really hilly instead, some way to increase what's happening on the heart a little bit more. Let's do our next slide. And I should mention here too, should have mentioned it before, our blood pressure, but if you have any chronic condition or you don't, you should always talk with your physician before starting a new exercise routine, just to give you a better picture of your health and what is actually achievable for you. We're focusing on walking because walking is such a nice step into, no pun intended, regular physical activity. So let's talk about blood sugar and how exercise helps to regulate this. So regular exercise does actually create a more favorable environment in the pancreas, which is responsible for that insulin. It is seen to improve the rate of cell survival and function in the pancreas, because a lot of times with folks who have diabetes, there's something that's not going right in that pancreas or with insulin secretion, whether it's too high or not happening. Exercise can help with limiting how much the body is attacking itself. And just overall, we're talking about efficiency, right? Talk about how it makes the heart work more efficiently. It's also doing it with other organs, helping with the efficiency so the function is maintained. If we talk about this slide, this chart that's right next to us here, we have two groups. We have our control group who had no issues with their glucose tolerance tests, right? They don't have some type of condition going on, or their condition is regulated well. Then we have another group that was split between an exercise group and a non-exercise group, where they did just a week, 7 days of exercise. Before this, they did a glucose tolerance test. You could see what happened over time. And then we did exercise with one group for a week and then did the same test again at the end of that week. And you can see not only did the exercise group improve, they've done, in fact, better than the control group. So exercise can even be folded in if you're already on some type of medication to even better regulate the body. Now, that being said, if you are somebody that has some type of blood sugar issue, whether that's diabetes or something else, it's really important that you have a snack on hand or tablets on hand when you are being physically active, because as you can see, exercise is really great at helping with your blood sugar, which sometimes can mean you dip too low. The other piece to that too is to be mindful of where that blood sugar is before you start exercising. I don't want you ever going out to exercise if it's already too high or too low. You want those numbers to look good before you go out and exercise. Next slide, please. And I know you saw in that last one, I mentioned ectopic fat. So I wanted to highlight that here more because it makes sense. But what exercise does is it does increase specifically aerobic exercise, but really any type. Increases levels of your HDL, so your good cholesterol, the ones that actually help to stop the buildup from happening on those arteries and those veins. So walking certainly does this aerobic activity with people who are highly aerobic or into cardio activity. You will see higher levels of that HDL. They can build up naturally. So with this, though, you will see it with any type of exercise. It's not just aerobic necessarily. Even if you're doing regular exercise in a gym, you'll still see those bumps in HDL. And actually, what that does then is go to then decrease a little bit on that LDL, which is what's being displayed over here on this chart. This is another group who were put through 20 minutes of exercise 4 days a week, mostly cardio. There was some resistance band training that happened in here too, but you'll see post-test, those LDL levels were a little elevated. After this test for several weeks of regular activity, those LDLs all came down. So not only is it boosting your good cholesterol, it's decreasing that bad cholesterol. Again, though, be mindful of some of those special considerations. Are there heart conditions going on? Is your medication going to impact how you feel with exercise? This is why it's really important to talk with your doctor too. Next slide, please. And then our mental health. This is another one that's really great. So it's just from head to toe. Exercise really does a lot of good things for us, and mental health is another one. So what exercise does is a natural boost of several transmitters that already exist in our body. And if you are diagnosed with a mental health issue like depression or anxiety, what is typically happening is the brain struggles to stimulate those neurotransmitters, or they're dulled. And exercise is a natural boost of those things. Exercise is not a supplement for medication or therapy. All of those things are incredibly valuable. What exercise can do is be another tool in that toolbox for you to help with regulating some of those symptoms. Specifically, the 3 chemicals I'm going to highlight that exercise is known to boost and release in the body is endorphins, which helps with that pain management. If you remember, I mentioned in the beginning that exercise actually does help with pain. And part of that is because endorphins are stimulated in the body, and those are a natural kind of relaxer in the body. And then we also have our dopamine, and that's the feel good one, right? Helps with mood, helps with your energy and your motivation. And then our final one over here is our serotonin, also linked to those feel good things. In addition to that, helps with sleep cycle and helps with your appetite. So regular activity, regular walking is going to just boost the way that these are either recepted in your brain or help to stimulate the release of them, which then go on to kind of soothe some of those mental health issues. Next slide, please. So here I get asked a lot, how do I even get started with exercise? I don't even know where to start. And that's why we're really highlighting walking, because it's such a low barrier to entry. You don't need any special equipment. You need, a nice pair of shoes, something to help be a little more supportive when you're out walking, and a place to do it. It could be a walking trail, it could be your neighborhood, it could be a treadmill, but either way, walking is fairly low impact. It's could be made intense, right, with hills or going at a faster pace, but you can also dial it back to moderate. But there's all kinds of options underneath that too. Walking is just a nice toe into being active regularly, because a big piece of this is that you're doing it consistently, right? At least a couple of days a week for a couple of minutes to an hour on those days. But really finding something you enjoy is going to be key, which I'll talk about in a minute too. But to add on to aerobic activity, it is important to make sure that you're getting some type of resistance training as well, muscle strengthening activities. We think of, dumbbells, barbells, resistance bands, and all of those things are great. And if you want to have them in your house or join a gym to use them, those are great. Body weight resistance is also a very viable option, which you can do at home. Yoga classes might see those too, but also just things that you find doing in your day-to-day, like carrying groceries, gardening, those things. If you have grandkids, those also can be something that's muscle strengthening as well. So you got to think outside the box sometimes with exercise. That's why we're talking about walking and movement. Next slide, please. So this is kind of like the general numbers around how much exercise do I need? How much should I be shooting for? And these are kind of agreed upon by a number of different organizations, but 150 minutes per week of moderate to intense aerobic activity. This breaks down to about like 22 minutes a day of moderate activity. So if you went for like 2 10 to 15 minute walks every day, you would achieve that. And then next to this is 2 days a week of some type of muscle strengthening activity. It could be going to the gym, it could be gardening, it could be playing around with your grandkid. There are a number of things that give us resistance training, but there should be at least 2 days per week that you are working those muscles. Now, I will say that sometimes this feels overwhelming, especially if you're coming from a place of not doing much. And I am a big fan of saying, well, if you can't achieve this, let's make it the goal. And let's see what you can do right now, because maybe you can't hit 150 minutes per week, but maybe you can hit 100 when we total it up. And I would much rather you do something than nothing. So think of this as kind of general guidelines, but if you're not there yet, this can be a goal to work toward. Or if you're almost there, maybe you have somewhere to, you know, where can I add, where can I increase, how can I change things? But do know that I am much bigger fan of something is going to be better than nothing, than stressing to try to achieve these numbers if that seems like it's unachievable for you right now. Next slide, please. So how do we make exercise fun and enjoyable? Couple of tips around that. And then that goes on to make it sustainable, right? We're still talking about how we have all these wonderful benefits, but this does need to be a sustainable habit to get those benefits. So first is asking yourself, how can I fit this in? If you're still working, maybe it means doing it earlier in the day, later in the day, might be going midday. I like to take walk breaks pretty much every day. And that's a nice way to break up my day, kind of refocus a little bit, just go out for, 20, 25-minute walk in the middle of my day and then go back to working. But something that's going to be convenient. And if you really are pressed for time, I am excited to tell you that exercise is also cumulative. So maybe you don't have 20 minutes to dedicate to exercise today, but you can do 10 minutes in the morning and 10 minutes in the evening of taking your dog out for a walk. That's still 20 minutes in your whole day. And doing that consistently is going to keep building on itself. So exercise does build. It just goes, you may go at a slower pace with it than someone who has the 40 to 45 minutes to dedicate in a day versus you who may only have short bouts that you can do during your day. Both are going to still be really good for you because again, it falls on that something is better than nothing. Our second thing here is to do something you like. And I know that that sounds simple, but you will not believe how many people come to me and say, well, I hate this activity. I hate running. Well, then don't do that. There's no rule that you have to do a certain type of exercise for it to count. Find something you like doing. Maybe it's biking, maybe it's dancing, maybe it's swimming, maybe it's gardening. But if you find something you like, you're going to want to keep doing it. So that's why it's important to find a thing that you like to do. The next one over here is to find somebody to do it with. And you can kind of ask yourself, do I want this to be social or do I think of this as more of a, self-care me time? Because that's okay too. But if you like that social aspect, having someone with you can be really nice for accountability. Group fitness is a really good option for somebody who likes more of that social aspect to exercise. And, it's nice to go for a walk and just chit chat with somebody too. And now you've both kind of achieved this. You can check off 2 boxes of social engagement and walking today. The next one is we do have to recognize that there's going to be barriers and hurdles along the way, and those are okay. Exercise will always be there after that. Just making sure that that is something that you are okay with starting over again. That barrier could be injury, illness, grief, a vacation. There are all kinds of things that get in the way of it, and it's totally okay to take time off. But it's also important to recognize that we do have to get back into that. And walking is a great way to kind of kick that back up if you've been struggling with trying to be active again, because it is such low barrier to entry. Last one here is if you like seeing your progress, you could totally track it. And there are a number of ways to do that. I think a really cute way is actually with a sticker chart. I know that sounds a little childish, but it's fun. And it's kind of that inner child joy. If you see a little sticker chart, you can give yourself stickers as you go along being more active, but there are certainly other ways to do that, right? If you have a Fitbit or some type of activity tracker, those all do it. And it can be nice to see the progress that you've made with increasing your activity. Next slide, please. And then lastly here is just some resources that kind of fall into that last slide that I was talking about, with asking yourself those questions and how much time do I have? What do I actually like doing? What are my barriers around exercise? And then when you have those answers, knowing where to go next. If you want to track, right, there's some things here to log where you started, where you're going. You could totally use stickers on it. I'm gonna push the sticker thing. And then also, you know, coming up with a plan for yourself. Are you someone that has 40 minutes to dedicate, or are you going to be more of like, I'm going to chunk it out into a couple minutes here, a couple minutes there, and then setting a goal for yourself of where do I want to be a month from now, 3 months from now, or a year from now. All right, and I believe I'm going to turn it over to Carly at this point.
I'm going to move the slides back up because somebody wanted just to see the slide again for calculating heart rate.
Sure.
So if you could just reiterate the calculation for that for one.
Yeah, not a problem. So 220 minus your age gives you your max heart rate. And your max heart rate is what you need to plug in for your target heart rate. So if you take that figure, which I'll do mine again at the bottom. So 186 is my maximum heart rate. That's in theory the highest I can get my heart rate for somebody my age. I take that 186 and multiply it by 0.65 to anywhere all the way up to 0.85. So you could do 0.7, 0.75, anywhere in between, but that 65 to 85% is that moderate to intense level of activity. So if I take 186 times 0.65, I get 121, which is about where my heart rate will be if I'm doing a moderate level of activity, right? Going for a brisk walk. If I take it and multiply it by 0.85, it gives me 158. This is where it's going to be if I'm like running, swimming, dancing, like a Zumba class. They get up really high at those levels. And that range, again, is just moderate to intense level on your heart rate. And you want somewhere in here sustained when you're doing this aerobic activity to get a lot of these benefits that I mentioned.
Thank you, Mallory. Okay,
Sure.
I will go ahead and advance these back to where we're going with Carly.
Thank you, Mallory. That was good stuff. Okay, so part 2 of this presentation, we're going to focus on pedestrian safety and defensive walking. So you've learned a little bit or a lot about the benefits of walking and movement. And so now we're going to spend time focusing on safety while we walk. Okay, next slide, please. So walking is recommended for people of all ages, especially for senior citizens who want to stay active and healthy. However, senior pedestrian safety has become a major concern, particularly in and around cities. According to the traffic safety facts from the U.S. Department of Transportation National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, pedestrians age 65 and older accounted for 20% of all pedestrian deaths and an estimated 10% of all pedestrian injuries in 2017. Next slide, please. So as adults age, gradual losses in hearing, vision, reflexes, and flexibility put older pedestrians at risk. For instance, stiff joints may make it harder to turn your head. So when you're turning your head, that might affect, the stiffness in your neck and shoulders, and you may not see vehicles when they are, when they're coming, turning, or backing up. So a key point in that situation would be to make sure you turn your whole body to look both ways, not just your neck. Some other areas that are dangerous, especially for senior pedestrians, are walking in urban areas that don't have sidewalks. This can create a risk for any pedestrian, of course, but especially seniors who may stray a little too close to the traffic. Intersections without lights or locations without intersections at all can be dangerous. This can cause confusion about who has the right of way and really cause a lot of danger in those situations as well. Fast moving traffic, vehicles traveling at a higher speed pose a significant risk for senior pedestrians. drivers are often unable to stop in time when they're encountering a senior pedestrian in and around the roadway. Another area that can be dangerous is during the night. So nighttime or evening walking. When you're walking at night, you have to also contend with lower visibility for the drivers. So there's, some safety issues to consider there as well. And then there are drivers who are impaired, some that may be intoxicated or maybe sleep deprived. They would be much more likely to strike pedestrians in and around the roadways. So it's important to be careful for yourself, but also aware of the people behind the wheel and the influences that they might be experiencing. Okay, next slide. Pedestrian accidents can lead to major injuries, but there are ways you can stay safe when you head out. So we're going to spend some time talking about a few of those now. Using paths and sidewalks whenever possible. A common mistake that can lead to a pedestrian vehicle collision is using roads that don't have the sidewalks, as I mentioned before. It's not safe to walk alongside the edge of the road, even in a place with a wide shoulder. Senior pedestrians should only take routes with sidewalks in a direction facing incoming traffic. This may allow the pedestrian to move out of the way if an oncoming vehicle veers into his or her path. You only want to cross at marked crosswalks and intersections. These are the only safe places to cross. Jaywalking can increase the risk of a pedestrian stopping or stepping off a curb when it's not safe to do so, especially if that pedestrian has poor eyesight or hearing. A senior should only use a crosswalk and only when it's safe to cross. So what I would suggest is making sure you plan routes to avoid these hazardous crossings or intersections as much as possible. The safest crossing will have enough room for you to stand back from the roadway, crosswalks that are clearly defined on the pavement and indicate where you should cross with the white lines. Wide avenues that require pedestrians to cross in phases should at least have an island in the middle of the road where you can pause halfway across if you're unable to cross the entire distance. I would recommend waiting at the crosswalk until there's a fresh green light, meaning it just turned green. Don't start and try to get across after it has already started for several seconds. And if you're unsure how long that time is, you might want to stand by and just sort of watch a cycle to see how much time you will have to get across. Don't rely on traffic signs and signals. So assuming that the traffic signal will stop vehicles puts you at risk. You always want to look for traffic, even if you're in a crosswalk when you're crossing, because sometimes drivers do not obey those signals and they may not be paying attention and they may not see you. Allow plenty of time for you to cross the streets. And I was going to say, sorry, you're most at risk when you're first stepping off the curb. So at those intersections, even though they're clearly marked, that first step off the curb is when you're most at risk because drivers may not see you until you're actually in the roadway. So you want to stop at that curb, look left and right and left again before you actually take that step off, knowing that, being defensive and aware of what the drivers may or may not see is something that can put you in a more safe situation. So don't assume drivers see you unless they signal for you to cross. So we're still on this slide. There's a lot to say. So the key is to, see and be seen. So it's a good idea when walking, especially at dawn or dusk and other low light conditions, to wear light colors or bright clothing so you can be easily seen. Fluorescent colors such as like a blaze orange or a hot pink or a day glow green are ideal in daytime, but not at nighttime. So if you walk at night, remember that wearing light clothing does not guarantee drivers can see you. When walking at night, I would recommend using a flashlight to make yourself more visible to drivers and to help light your path. It's also a good idea to wear reflective or retroreflective materials, which give off light when headlights shine on them, and so you can be seen by drivers 3 times farther than white. Many stores are selling walking shoes, jackets, and safety sports equipment featuring that material. Keep in mind also that walkers are especially at risk during the winter. The lower angle of the winter sun increases shadows. cast by buildings and trees. So decreased daylight, those shadows and nightfall can make it difficult to see walkers walking in dark, especially with non-reflective clothing. When walking, you want to avoid distractions. You want to stay alert, avoid your cell phone use and wearing earbuds, such as electronic devices that takes your attention off the road. And then a few other pointers would be that not all pedestrian accidents and injuries involve motor vehicle collisions. Many arise from slipping or falling while walking. More than 1 in 3 senior citizens over the age of 65 fall each year. So falls on sidewalks and crosswalks can cause bone fractures and related serious health complications. So you want to prevent those accidents while walking. Ways you can do that would be to wear sturdy shoes that will give you proper footing. So a running or walking shoe that supports your foot from the sides is best. You want to try to avoid medications that can cause dizziness, especially right before you're going to plan for your walk. You want to make sure you have your eyesight tested regularly, get enough sleep so you're well rested, and avoid wet and icy surfaces, and then making sure that you use an assistive device when necessary. So that's what we're going to focus on our next slide, would be those assistive devices. These are the various types of walking assistive devices for seniors. I'm just going to go through these briefly from, the least amount of assistance to the most amount of assistance. Canes would be the most common and standard type of walking aid. 1 out of 10 seniors over the age of 65 use a cane. It does improve your balance by helping to support your body's weight and transferring some of the load to your upper body. Portable, they're easy to keep around. A standard length of a cane is 36 inches, but can also come in an adjustable height cane. One thing to keep in mind is that canes do place greater pressure on the hands and your wrists. So if you have a weaker upper body or arm, hand, or wrist issues, a cane might not be the best choice. Okay. And you can see from the picture, there's several different types of canes that are available. The next layer of support would be what's called a walker. And basic walkers provide more support and balance than canes because they have a wider base of support and contact to the ground. They're generally lightweight and often foldable. They have a metal frame with 4 legs. Some of them have 2 wheels in the front to make them easier to move. Height can be adjusted, and you can often attach a bag for carrying items, which is very convenient. But they can be difficult to maneuver when out in the community, especially when walking on sidewalks due to those uneven surfaces. So there's pros and cons, of course, with everything. Rollators, which is that walker that has the seat and the brakes on the handles, have a frame with 4 wheels, handlebars, and a seat where you can rest when desired. So if you become tired or short of breath, it's nice to always have that seat handy so you can take a break when you need to. Those handbrakes are there for safety, especially when you're going down a sloped surface, or when you do need to sit, you want to make sure you lock those brakes so that the seat doesn't roll away from you, causing a fall. They are fast moving and have 4 wheels, so you want to make sure you have good balance to accommodate the movement from all the angles when using a rollator. This device would not be recommended for individuals who have dementia for reasons that I just said. If you forget to lock the brakes before sitting down, that can lead to serious injuries and falls. And then finally, the item or the device with the most support would be a wheelchair. It's best used by those who should not or cannot put weight on their lower limbs, those who cannot walk. Standard wheelchairs are designed for self-propulsion using your upper body. They can be heavy and bulky and difficult to navigate in the community without assistance. And therefore, there are also power chairs, so that would be an electric wheelchair or scooter that can more easily navigate the outdoors, if that's something that you're interested in. Okay, next slide. This slide goes over 1-mile trails that were created by the Howard County Health Department in collaboration with the Howard County Department of Rec and Parks back in August of 2021. These links can be found on the Columbia Association website, and it goes through, it lists them, and I like how it tells how many miles each of those are. So, you know, if you're looking for something that is 2 miles, you can go for that, or something less like a mile, you would have access to that. It's nice and organized. And I believe it looks here, these routes are posted, I'm sorry, on the Columbia Association new All Trails profile page. And back in September, we reached out to the Howard County Rec and Parks for a map of ADA compliant trails and paths. And we're hopefully getting those up there soon. And the next slide, please. Some additional walking areas in Columbia are listed on this slide. The routes are posted on the Columbia Association website. So it's more resources for those of you who are ready to get out there and do some walking. So that is the end of my slides, but we're lucky to have an OT student from Towson University with us today. Her name is Lauren Burns, and she's going to be going over additional resources in Howard County that you want to be sure to know about. On the next slide.
Thank you, Carly. So more information about Howard County Walktober community events are on the Howard County MD.gov site, and Howard County Department of Community Resources and Services provides several programs to help community members walk, bike, and roll safely, like the Stepping On Fall Prevention course and the Loan Closet, which provides assistive devices like walkers and wheelchairs at no cost to seniors and people with disabilities. Also, Walk Howard regularly updates its site with local walking tours and events. And Columbia Association has a post on their blog about area walking paths and trails with more information about the All Trails app. Thank you.
Thanks, Lauren. Next slide, please. Okay. I think that about wraps it up. I'm not sure who's taking over from here.
Yes, I think Sojin wanted to do a couple of the last slides with us. Is that correct, Sojin?
Yes. Is there any questions coming from our participant today?
The only question I saw was the question about calculating the heart rate, but I have a couple questions, and I was wondering if Carly could address what some of the best night gear is. Do you recommend a reflective vest, a flashing light? I know ideally not walking at night is probably the safest, but if you are walking your dog at night, what would you recommend?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, anything, I would say a vest for sure, or some kind of jacket that has that reflective lining on it. So cars, when they, do shine light on you, they're more able to see you. A flashlight would be good, or even a headlight if you'd like to wear something like that. You could even do some glow sticks. I don't know, you could make it fun. But yeah, the more visible you are, the safer you're going to be, because drivers are more likely to see you. So definitely, I would say definitely shoes, a jacket, and then some sort of light that you could have with you. Okay.
Were there any other questions you wanted to address, Sojin?
Yeah, I think one participant just submit her questions to the chat box.
Oh, about how to pick the appropriate mobility aid. I know that can be very confusing and sometimes costly too.
Yes.
To figure out what you should use, and then if it doesn't work, how is there any kind of, I always wonder if there's some kind of share or swap, that you could at least try something out.
Well, I would certainly be talking to your doctor. I would start with your doctor. If you are experiencing a need to have a mobility device, the question would be why? Is it because of your balance? Is it because of your strength? Is it because you get tired and you need to sit down? So depending on what the mobility concerns are, a certain device would be recommended. From there, your doctor would possibly refer you to a physical therapist through your Medicare benefit to have them do a mobility assessment with you to fit you for the proper device. But I would say most people self-select a cane if they're just feeling like they need a little extra support with their balance, but it does require some getting used to and some training for how to use that device properly. So if you are thinking that you need one and you're noticing that you might be catching yourself from having a fall, or you're getting really tired when you're walking, or just feeling, like you don't have the strength, those would be signs that you should talk to your doctor and speak with a physical therapist so they can help you identify the correct mobility device that would be helpful for you. And then the Howard County Loan Closet, if it is something that you just want to try out or see, once you get that recommendation from your physical therapist, you can make an appointment with them, and they have equipment on site that you could take a look at and try.
That's really helpful, and please all refer to the chat. You can just click on the links in the chat and it'll open it on your computer so you can save it and bookmark it. And we do have Loan Closet and all of that in the chat. I know that one of the people who registered for the class initially expressed concern over her leg weakness. And I think that's good advice about, going to your physician, if you think that there is a problem. But I wondered if you could speak to that too, especially Mallory, if you recommended a certain course of exercise, if you wanted to do some leg strengthening, if you had seen recently that you weren't feeling as strong walking as you were before.
If you are feeling like lower body weakness and the doctor is okay with you doing physical activity, some places to start with that would be like a seated bike, a recumbent bike, to help build up that leg strength, but it's going to kind of mimic that walking in that it's building up the endurance in the leg too. And then if you're specifically trying to build muscle strength, something like a leg extension, whether it's a leg extension machine, but something that's going to target those quads, because our quads are what help us walk. They're the ones that are doing the primary movement when you are doing that form of exercise. Another thing to consider would actually be swimming or aqua aerobics, because it's so low impact, but you're still getting the resistance of the water. And it can also help with that. I know a lot of folks who have any type of like chronic condition have issue with like temperature regulation in their body, and the water can help with that factor too. So if you have access to something like that, aqua is another really great option.
Yeah, but
Okay,
first I would definitely start with your doctor just to
Yes.
figure out what's the base cause of that. I think a lot of people, especially this past year and a half, some of us have been walking a lot, others have been more sedentary. So you might, be experiencing, a much less mobility in terms of your strength, and whether or not that's just from being sedentary or from another medical condition, you definitely want to make sure you're talking to your doctor about it.
Excellent advice. Are there any more closing remarks or any other questions? We have
I see a question.
series of-
Considering those with pets, do you have any suggestions or safety tips for walking a dog while using a walker? This is a tough one. This is really tough. Depending on what type of walker you're using and what size dog you have, that can be a very tricky situation. If your dog is pulling, they could, pull you over even if you were sort of attaching the leash to the walker to help you guide them. So it would really be a case-by-case basis, I would say, knowing yourself and knowing your dog, how much support do they need to walk safely outside? And if you feel comfortable using your assistive device when you're doing that, I'm sure there's ways you can modify it, or you could obtain like a heavier piece of equipment. Maybe you would be using a rollator versus a cane when you're doing your outdoor walking, you know, because that would give you more support than the cane would, especially when you're walking your pet. That's a question that comes up to me quite a bit. And a lot of times people find people that can help them walk their dogs. There's dog walking services. They figure out things to do inside the home that can keep your pet occupied, those like brain puzzle things. There's lots to do to kind of accommodate for not having the ability to be able to do that independently anymore. But it would be a case by case thing. I think you just have to know your dog, you have to know yourself, and be aware of, you know, how much support you do need in order to be stable when you are performing that exercise.
All right, thank you. I'm going to turn it over to Sojin, who helped coordinate the webinar today, and I'm going to have her go through the last of the slides. And I just want to, again, reiterate that we welcome your feedback. And I just want to really thank the Howard County Health Department in partnership with the Howard County Office on Aging and Independence for this excellent and really, really informative class. I really, really appreciate it. Okay, I'll turn it over to you, Sojin.
All right, thank you, Sherry. Good morning. This is Joaquin from Howard County Local Health Improvement Coalition. Thanks everyone for joining us today, and thank you, Mallory and Carly, for your great presentations. Now we are wrapping up, but before we leave, I would like to ask all of you to complete the following survey on the slide to learn about your experience with today's webinar. As you can see, there are a couple of ways to complete the survey. The first, using the QR code, and second, using the link on the slide. So I'm gonna put the survey link to the chat box again for your convenience. And as mentioned earlier, so we'll also send a follow-up email with this survey link after the webinar. So please take a few minutes to complete this survey when you have a chance today. So if you go to the next slide. So I am very excited to share this information with you. As a host of the State Maryland Walktober, Maryland Department of Transportation invites you to MD Walktober Walk-in series. This is a free virtual opportunity to learn more about how to improve the walkability of our community, focusing on the community access to safe pedestrian spaces. The link to more information will be available in the chat box in a second. Next slide, please. So please stay tuned with us, Hoku Walktober webinar series 2. So we have 2 more sessions to go. The third session, scheduled for next Tuesday, will talk about how to stay active with a disability. And the last one, focusing on pedestrian safety for children, will be scheduled for the last week of Walktober. So I'm also gonna put the registration link to the chat box as well. So I think now we are all set today. So if you go to the next slide. So thank you everyone again for joining us today, the second session of Hoku Walktober webinar series. And I really hope everyone enjoy safe walk and safe moving exercise in our beautiful neighbor during the month of October. And hope you have a great day today. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.